We're pleased to have a terrific lineup of speakers today. We have Lindsey Talerico Hedren, who's the social media strategist at Reid, Aubrey Woolverton, who's the individual giving manager at Inner City Arts, Justin Marshall, Director of Advancement at Northwood University, and our own Jeremy Koenig, who's the Director of Marketing here. Thank you all for typing into the chat. That's fantastic. If you have any questions, we're going to leave about 10 minutes at the end of the presentation at least. We've got a fully packed, content-rich program here for you today. So we'll do our best to get all of this insight out to you and answer as many questions as you do have. So feel free to type them into the chat. Again, as I mentioned, we will be sending out a link to the recorded version of this webinar. So you can go back and listen and refresh your memory or go over anything else or share it with some of your colleagues who could not attend today. Today's webinar is going to be including the latest trends in crowdfunding for nonprofits, some real-world success stories, some insights and best practices, and a live demonstration, and a Q&A from our terrific panel you see here today. As I mentioned, we're going to be discussing what is crowdfunding for nonprofits, going over some of the current statistics, some of the best practices, myths, and intangibles of success. We'll hear a great success story from Northwood University as well as from Inner City Arts, and we'll be going through a live demonstration. So again, just a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. If you have any audio issues, if you're having trouble hearing me whatsoever, feel free to choose the More button on the toolbar and the webinar tool, and choose to switch to dial in by phone, as sometimes that gives you a little bit better connection. We're going to, again, leave about 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. And again, finally, as another reminder, we will be sending out a link to the recorded version. So thanks again for joining us. We've got a terrific content-packed program for you today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you our first guest speaker, and that is Lindsey Talerico Hedren. She's Reid's social and content strategist within a team of in-house digital experts. Reid is North America's largest integrated marketing agency serving nonprofit organizations with over 50 years helping nonprofits grow. Reid acquires over 1 million new donors for nonprofits each and every year. Lindsey leads the agency's social media practice and strategic client-facing services and has 6 years of expertise delivering digital initiatives for the world's largest nonprofits. You can reach Lindsey or Reid on Twitter at Lindsey Talerico or at Reid Agency. So now, without further ado, welcome, Lindsey. Can you hear me?
Thanks, Chris. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. Great. Thank you. And I'm coming to you today from Reid's West Coast office in Pasadena. So hey, fellow Californians and everyone else, totally where it's probably a little bit better weather than we're having here today. Okay, so let's start here. Let's talk about some crowdfunding foundations. Where did it come from? Where is it now? And where is it going? And what does that mean for your nonprofit or the cause that you represent? So crowdfunding has always been about the collective effort of many individuals who create that crowd, whose donations are essentially pooled together for a single cause or campaign. The evolution of crowdfunding is probably what we would consider one of the most notable phenomenons in online fundraising of this decade. To give you an idea of its growth, 3 years ago, crowdfunding platforms raised $2.7 billion, successfully funding more than 1 million campaigns. 2 years ago, that number raised to $5.1 billion through crowdfunding platforms, and social causes started to make up almost a third of the most active crowdfunding categories. So nonprofits are benefiting huge from crowdfunding and have only, an infinite opportunity to grow in this area in the future. So what is crowdfunding for nonprofits? Crowdfunding for nonprofits is when organizations and individuals set up fundraising pages to raise donations from personal networks. Another name you might hear from this, or another name you might hear that's called a lot, is peer-to-peer fundraising. And essentially, peer-to-peer fundraising is where the crowd can tap their networks to collectively fundraise to meet a goal. So it's essentially multi-tiered crowdfunding is what we're talking about here for nonprofits. And how is all of this facilitated? Well, it's facilitated through platforms such as MobileCause, Razoo, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, First Giving, etc. And there are actually, to give you an idea of this, more than 450 crowdfunding sites online today. So it's extremely important that as you sort of surf the web and you're looking for, you sort of scan these 400 plus crowdfunding platforms available today, that you're choosing the right platform. In fact, I would say platform choice is extremely important and foundational to the success of your crowdfunding campaigns now and in the future. Crowdfunding platform is going to determine the ease of which your supporters can participate, as well as the requirements of your campaign. And like I was saying, it's really going to be a huge contributor to the success or ultimately the failure of your campaigns. So let's run through some statistics here of where crowdfunding is today. In the last year, actually, industry awareness for crowdfunding has increased 9,900%. So all of this is helping to contribute things like average gift and number of people and number of donors that are now flocking to crowdfunding. Social causes are moving to the forefront in that rank of the successfully funded projects. So $568 is your average amount raised now by individuals for nonprofit organizations on crowdfunding platforms. That average gift amount is leveling out to be around the $66 range. But as I'm sure you can guess, that if you can get your individuals to fundraise through a group, that dollar amount can significantly increase. And I recently read a statistic that the average crowdfunding campaign for a nonprofit can actually total more in like the $5,000 range if you have team fundraising as a component of that. So 8 people on average can give to an individual fundraiser. 66% of those are new donors, which tells us a lot about the opportunity for reaching new audiences in the nonprofit space in terms of crowdfunding. 27% of your donors who are giving to crowdfunding campaigns are donating again. So that repeat donor percentage right there is actually extremely high for all the different channels that we look at in nonprofit fundraising. So again, this kind of paints that picture of opportunity for you. Millennials are obviously the generation that are flocking to crowdfunding because it's very innate, very natural to how they view fundraising in general. 71% of those have already fundraised for a nonprofit. And crowdfunding campaigns promoted by video are raising 2 to 4 times as much. And this is definitely a component of the platform choice as well, where some platforms literally require a video, as an example. So studies are showing that millennials are giving to nonprofit organizations that have a personal connection with them. So crowdfunding is definitely a significant opportunity and one of the most effective ways you can kind of gain that new audience, but also fill the shoes of that older generation of donors that you're probably dealing with. So what are some of the best practices in crowdfunding right now? Crowdfunding is about lots of small donations, lots and lots of those $66 donations. And 66 is the average amount, but a lot of platforms actually accept donations as small as $1, $2, $10. So you can imagine if you have a goal for, say, $100,000, you're going to need a lot of $10 donations. So strategic marketing is going to really maximize the reach of your campaign. I actually consider your big marketing plan that's behind your crowdfunding campaign the sort of bread and butter of what you're going to be doing in crowdfunding. So here's the bullet points here for what you can be thinking about in terms of creating your crowdfunding campaign. It should be narrow in scope. You should have about a 300 to 500 word description, and that's not prescriptive of what you absolutely need to do. It can be 200 words. I wouldn't exceed 500 unless that's what it takes to really paint the picture and tell the story of what you're trying to achieve here. Short time frame is extremely important because your donors to your crowdfunding campaign want to ensure that there's a finish line. So you need to actually have that finish line in place. So 6 to 9 weeks is a very great average that you can be looking at. Target a specific audience that will especially resonate with this campaign. One of the sort of best practices in crowdfunding right now is to not go out extremely general with whatever you're doing. So not a general offer, not a general campaign, and definitely not a general audience. Crowdfunding is going to appeal to very specific audiences. We already talked about the millennial generation. So the more you can do to target that audience, the better success you'll have. Your campaign should be quantifiable in impact. So as a nonprofit organization, this is thinking about your dollar handles or that impact story. What will people achieve by donating to your campaign, or what can you achieve with their dollars? 20% of successful crowdfunding campaigns are supported before they even launch. So this gives you a really great idea of how extremely important it is that your marketing plan is large and deep and covers a lot of promotional aspects, because your donors are going to be a huge contributor to your success. So it should be backed by those day-to-day marketing efforts from your organization. So from pre-launch to the launch of your crowdfunding campaign, all the way through to the end and past the goal date, you should be doing some day-to-day marketing efforts that would probably be integrated across your digital efforts as well as social media, so that you can ensure you have a constant stream of communication about what you're trying to achieve. And then two other things here that you should stay away from is that crowdfunding shouldn't be used for general funding appeals. So for example, our fall fundraising campaign, crowdfunding will be extremely difficult to be able to contribute successfully to such a general appeal. And that's simply because of what we talked about just a moment ago in terms of that quantifiable impact for your donors and having that finish. If you have, say, a 3-month campaign that has a very general appeal that you might have a very general answer to in terms of the impact of that campaign, it becomes harder for your donors to immediately want to fundraise or to donate on for you for that. And they're not ran on multiple crowdfunding platforms at a time. So where sometimes organizations can look at social media and can say, well, we want to post this on, say, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and on our website, etc., and that is an outstanding integrated approach. You wouldn't want to, I think, cross that over into the crowdfunding space and say have your campaign on Indiegogo and MobileCause and Razoo at the same time, because actually that just makes it, again, more difficult for your donors to know where to go to donate. So there are 3 myths here in terms of crowdfunding that I think are extremely important to sort of have in your brains now, whether it's for yourselves or for your executive leadership team or even for your donors themselves in terms of what you can achieve. And those 3 myths are that crowdfunding automatically flocks people to your campaign. Really, the reality is that a majority of crowdfunding donations are going to come from your existing network, as I was saying. So that big marketing plan is essential to the success of your campaign. And just because you sort of put it up on a site or have this platform available to your donors, nobody will know to go to it without your marketing and promotional efforts. The second is that crowdfunding is only about money. We talk a lot in social media about how thinking only about money is a very narrow view of the impact social media can have on your engagement or your communications or marketing efforts for your organization. So definitely broaden that and start to think about the long-term view of what crowdfunding can bring to your organization. It's about empowering supporters, increasing brand awareness. It can, as we've already said, help you reach new audiences. And therefore, it means that your donor cultivation, your acquisition, and the community that you're building can really broaden and increase and have a new way to help you. And the third myth is that crowdfunding works for everyone. Just like any other communication or marketing channel or new media channel, crowdfunding has its own set of challenges. It requires certain things of you. It requires staff time and capacity and expertise, and it really does require you to apply those best practices. The right campaign and that right platform and that right strategy will seriously mean the difference between whether or not you'll achieve really outstanding things with your crowdfunding campaign, or really your chance of a public failure is also equally as high because it's all public. So please just keep in mind those myths, and that will really help you to be able to create the best crowdfunding campaign you can. Some intangibles for success that you can be thinking about. Creating a movement of people that are going to work together to make a difference and reach a goal. It's funny because we talk about how movement and engagement are so key to crowdfunding, but creating a movement and then sustaining that movement are extremely hard things to do. So you want to be doing these 6 things. One is creating that sense of urgency. And in Russ Reid's expertise, we know that whether it's an email campaign, a direct mail appeal, or what you're posting in social media, that urgency is really going to drive that response. So that's, again, why you want to look at a fixed timeline for your crowdfunding campaign, a very key and distinctive offer as an example. Second is telling your story with passion. One of the huge things for crowdfunding is the ability for you to personalize it. So whether it's your nonprofit personalizing this campaign through the way that you tell the story, or whether it's empowering your supporters who are going to be fundraising on your behalf, so creating those fundraising pages, you want to encourage them and yourself to tell the story with passion. Make it personal, relate to people, because that's going to be a huge driver of your success. Third, engaging your fundraising donors with videos and photos. We talked about how campaigns with videos will actually fundraise 2 to 4 times more than those without, and that's simply because of the rise of the visual web. Videos, photos, high quality visual and powerful content is going to be huge in engaging your audience from the get-go. Fourth, make it easy as possible for people to set up their own fundraising pages. Excellent platforms like MobileCause, as an example, have really outstanding capabilities for this to happen very, very easily. But if you did look at other platforms, or one of the other 400 platforms out there today, you'll notice that setting up fundraising pages can be extremely difficult, especially if it's an older audience or a very young audience, or people who aren't maybe as technologically sophisticated as you might be. Fifth, make it easy as possible for donors to give, so they shouldn't be platform that you're choosing to give, because we know through our research and through expertise that the number of steps you put in front of a donor lessens the chance that they'll actually complete that conversion. So make it as easy as possible. Drive them directly from your email, your social media efforts, directly to these donation pages. Make it easy for them. Make the reasoning all right there for them. Sixth, make it as easy as possible for supporters to share with their personal network. And this is really going to come through that platform choice again. Many different platforms offer different sort of tools that are already built in for your either fundraisers or for you as the sort of administrator of your crowdfunding campaign. And so you want to ensure that the ability to promote and share individual fundraising pages as well as the umbrella fundraising campaign page is extremely easy. And I'll pass it back to Chris here.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lindsey, for some terrific insight. And for everyone who is asking, it's Lindsey Talerico Hedren, and we'll show you a spelling for that in the slides very shortly, because there's a couple of people who would like to know. And if you want, Lindsey, you can type into the chat and just send to everyone, your name and contact info, potentially, your Twitter handle. And again, everyone, we will reserve some time at the end. So if you have questions for anything that Lindsey presented, feel free to type them into the chat, and we'll endeavor to answer as many of them as we can. And also, for all of those that have been asking, we will be sending out a link to the recorded version of the presentation. So you'll be able to get all of this good data and review it again and share it with your colleagues. And for anyone that's having any issues hearing, voice over IP can be sometimes a little bit troublesome depending on your internet connection. So feel free to choose the more from the toolbar and switch to dial in by phone. Now I'd like to introduce our next guest, Justin Marshall. He's the Director of Advancement Operations and Systems at Northwood University in Midland, Michigan. He focuses his work on securing major gifts of $100,000 or more and managing Northwood University's annual fund. He previously served as Vice President for Advancement for the Mackinac Center for Public Policy, one of the nation's largest state-based think tanks. And before working in fundraising, Justin helped coordinate events for the Olympic Torch Relay and the run-up to the 2002 Winter Olympic Games in Salt Lake City. So Justin is going to talk to us today about Northwood's recent foray into crowdfunding. Justin, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Thanks, Chris.
Terrific. Well, thanks so much, Justin. I really appreciate you being here. And just wanted to see if you could tell us a little bit about, some of your initial goals and the challenges your organization is facing, with respect to crowdfunding. What instigated sort of your latest program?
Yeah, it's a great question. Northwood University, for a very long time, has had a very good major gift process. And when I say that, we've done a very good job of going after alumni and non-alumni for gifts of $100,000 or more. But we haven't really had a sustained annual fund program. And when I was brought on 5 years ago, that was a big goal of ours, is to not only secure the large gifts, but then to start building a broader base of support. The biggest challenge that we had is our alumni weren't used to hearing from us. They weren't used to giving to the university, and they hadn't created that habit of giving to the university. So that created a challenge that if they were to hear from us in traditional methods, direct mail, phone-a-thons, they weren't as apt to give to the university because the relationship just wasn't there. So we decided that we wanted to go to crowdfunding and try out a pilot program and really try and turn our alumni into our fundraisers. We, as the professional fundraisers, would retain the $100,000 level gifts, the major gifts, but then we looked at our alumni as a source of people who could go out, fundraise for us, and help us build that larger base of support. And what we asked them to do is, during this pilot program, is we got 8 alumni captains. We brought them all on board into a meeting similar to this, gave them some best practices, and asked them to lead a pilot campaign for us, which became very, very successful.
And so yeah, maybe you could tell us a little bit then, about, so you talked a little bit about the success, and I guess, so what was sort of the detailed sort of solution? I kind of popped up a screen that gives some examples, and for everyone that's in the webinar here, you can visit this link actually, or you can text IDEA to 71777 and actually participate and see firsthand the actual implementation of Northwood's university's program. So, maybe you could back up a little, just tell us a little, Justin, about, sort of the process that you went through to kind of test this pilot and what you all did.
Yeah, that'd be my pleasure. I think the most important thing that we realized from the very beginning, and I think everyone else on the phone, depending on your organization, probably deals with this as well, is managing internal expectations. So what we were very careful about when we went out to those 8 alumni captains to test out this $2,500 campaign is we wanted to make sure that we weren't going out to alumni that we knew were close to Northwood University, were already inclined to give to Northwood University. We wanted to make sure that these alumni captains were people who would be making first-time gifts and be asking their friends and their peers in the alumni world to be making first-time gifts. The reason why we did that is I think it'd be very easy for us to all pick 10 or 15 people out of our donor base or out of our alumni that would be more than happy to volunteer, that would be more than happy to make a gift, and they probably know the 3 or 4 people who are already close to the organization as well that would be willing to make gifts. We wanted to see if this would really succeed with people who weren't close to the university. So we went through a process of talking with our alumni director, involved a lot of people on our campus, and we identified 8 individuals and made basically cold calls to them, asking them whether or not they'd be willing to help their university test out a crowdfunding platform. We had no one tell us no, so that was surprising from the very beginning. Once we identified those individuals, we set up a meeting. We brought them in, talked to them about what our goal was, and we wanted to make sure that we set them up for success. So echoing what was said earlier, we made the campaign very targeted. We have at our university, I believe, emergency scholarship fund that helps out probably about 22 individuals per year. That emergency scholarship fund is there for those individuals who are facing an extreme hardship. So we thought this would be a very good case to try out with our alumni, making it very targeted, giving them an end goal, giving them a purpose, and then at the very end, we could announce back success in a very tangible manner by having, our students thank them that have benefited from this emergency scholarship fund.
And so I guess, I want to make clear to everyone, like, what was your big win with this? Obviously, this was just sort of an initial pilot, right? And this is where, everyone probably on the call is trying to figure out, how do we get everybody comfortable in this? And so sort of what was your big win? What was the best insight that you gained from this?
I think we had a few big wins. We had a lot of great traffic, even from people who weren't giving to the campaign on social media, mostly Facebook, a bit on Twitter. We're not very active on Instagram. Those are probably our strongest social media sites. People who were just talking about how this fundraising campaign was fun for them to be a part of. We don't hear that too often as fundraisers, when someone's saying, hey, it's fun to be a part of a program and I feel like I've made a difference. I think crowdfunding, that was a big win for us. Another big win is we brought those alumni captains and those initial 56 donors who made the $2,700 possible, we brought them so much closer to the university. Again, they felt like they were part of something, but then they were talking about it with their friends and their family and with other alumni. And we had one particular alumnus who was previously someone that we weren't aware of, came to us and said, I like this so much that I want to offer you a $10,000 gift for our matching gift to continue the campaign and not do a pilot, but to actually release this out to the rest of your alumni base.
Fantastic. And so I guess, that said, then, what do you see as sort of the next steps? What's your sort of future plans to further capitalize on this?
Yeah, our future plans, we're going to be taking advantage of that matching gift, certainly. We think that there's going to be a lot of excitement, people knowing that they can get a 2-for-1 opportunity with their gift, a dollar-for-dollar match. So we're going to continue this campaign. We're going to identify some new alumni captains, so get it out to a larger, more broad base of our alumni. And what we're going to do is we're going to announce the new campaign on April 18th. We're going to announce it with videos on social media, and we just did our first video today. We're taking the first 56 donors that made the $2,700 possible, and we put Northwood University logos on one of the main windows on our campus where there's a lot of traffic, so people can see that they gave. And each week, as more and more people give to our campaign, we're going to have our student alumni network, current students, be putting up more forms for our donors so everyone can see on campus. And we're going to do weekly videos showing them the updates, showing the students putting the new logos up on the window. And we're going to be putting it out on Facebook. We're going to be putting it out on Twitter, and we're going to be doing that. And that's going to be the bulk of our campaign, and also combining it with our phone-a-thon. And then in addition to that, we are also activating our athletic teams to be more of a peer-to-peer fundraisers, using the crowdfunding program to help raise funds for the football efforts. And we're going to also be using it for some of our major galas, where we have volunteer committee. We're going to activate each of our volunteer committees and have them go out to their networks and try and increase the number of sponsorships and individual donations to our major events as well. Our hope is, and I think it's very reasonable, is to do $75,000 before October of this year.
Fantastic. I mean, so would you say, Justin, then, that now that you've seen that the technology and that the solution for doing this was actually not a roadblock? I mean, was that something that before you got through this, it seemed that, how you would do this was going to be a challenge, and now you discovered that really that's not really what the challenge is? Is that true?
I think we found that it was a lot easier to implement than we initially thought it might be. I mean, obviously, and I don't want to say that and give everyone the impression that if you do this, it's going to work. You have to put in a lot of effort. Prior to signing on with MobileCause, we decided to put together this pilot program. We talked about it for a month, going back and forth, identifying the alumni captains, what we'd be raising money for, putting together the graphics that you see on the screen now, what level of gift were we going to ask for, and what information would we want from our donors, which we decided we basically just only wanted to confirm who was giving the gift, and we wanted to leave out any other information that you might normally request to make it easier and faster to give your gift. I would say overall, to run our campaign was successful within 72 hours, our pilot campaign. I think we spent about a month, and 1 to 2 hours each week putting that together. And then the campaign, we were asking to run it for the entire month of February. But as I mentioned, it concluded by 72 hours. So I think it's been a very easy process for us, and it's been a very fun process as well.
Wow, terrific. Well, so final thoughts, and we'll get to some more questions that people have for you at the end of the presentation here at the top of the hour. But just, final recommendations. What do you have? Have any thoughts or recommendations for those listening today? That what they might be able to do. What might you recommend to those listening overall?
I think what we found is, and I think it's important with almost any project, but whatever nonprofit or university you're working with, is bringing together some people that you typically wouldn't be working with and trying to get some outside thoughts on, what you want to raise funds for, what's the cause going to be, and seeing if they might have any ideas on who your champions might be. That typically in the fundraising office, you can kind of get stuck in a box or a rut of going to the same people over and over again, or your alumni office can get stuck in going to the same well over and over again. We made sure to bring in people that normally weren't involved with our fundraising efforts, and I think that's the most important part. Also, I think managing the time expectations as well. We did not put a lot of money into this program. Obviously, there was the cost of, subscribing with MobileCause, but a lot of the resources that we put in were resources that were readily available. It was quickly writing a 300 to 500 word description. It was working with the committee helping us put this together on how much were we going to ask for and where was it going to go. And they were very fun and energetic meetings. So we didn't put a lot of money into this. After the end of the campaign, the $2,700 is going directly to the scholarship fund. So the initial investment isn't considered in the costs that we have because it's one of those investments that we see critical as just a general fundraising tool. But we expect to be fully profitable and have a net gain from this program at the end.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your insight, Justin. It's terrific. And again, we'll get to some questions, as many as we can. We got a few good ones here. But we do have a lot of content to get through, so I'm going to move along and introduce our next guest, and that is Aubrey Woolverton. She's the individual giving manager with Inner City Arts, and she is focused on developing and growing Inner City Arts annual fund and individual giving efforts. Welcome, Aubrey. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So, similar to Justin, maybe you can tell us a little bit about, I know as well, you are testing out crowdfunding and you yourself see the value and opportunity it brings. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about, some of your initial goals and the challenges you're having in the organization, with respect to crowdfunding.
Absolutely. Crowdfunding is definitely new for us. Actually, our annual fund is pretty new. So it's a brave new frontier for us of trying to, as kind of going back to Justin's point, getting new donors and sort of broadening our base so we're not asking the same people. So crowdfunding is something that I have done personally and have found to be very successful in reaching out to my community. So I thought it would be a great opportunity for Inner City Arts to expand the amount of people it was reaching out to. For us, we decided to kind of roll out a bit of a pilot program that coincided with our year-end fundraising. And we actually initially were using an online platform that was synced up with our email service that we use. And our CEO, Bob Smiland, had some concerns about some of the functionality that we didn't have. And in talking to MobileCause, it seemed like your program had some of the abilities that I've found personally to be very successful and that our CEO was looking for. So we actually set him up with his very own MobileCause page as sort of our guinea pig to see how it worked. And as you can see on the screen, he managed to raise a significant amount of money, as well as sort of honor some gifts that he had received before, because you guys offer the ability to add offline gifts. So I'll just kind of go through really quickly the things that we found that were really successful. The really simple user face. Certainly for us, it's been a challenge to get people comfortable with giving online. We are very used to receiving donations via check and in the mail. So having an interface that was really, really simple, not only for Bob to use to sign up, but also for his donors to give. And definitely tracking offline gifts was great. Some people still want to give that check, and it was great to have an opportunity to honor them as part of the donor listing, and also to credit that towards our donors, towards Bob's account. It was also really helpful for us not going through PayPal, which some people are uncomfortable with. And frankly, just the customer service, with MobileCause and being able to call or email and ask questions and get pretty immediate answers to make sure that we were rolling it out properly and addressing anything as soon as it came up.
Awesome. And so, I guess based on sort of your, these initial results, what do you see sort of as the next step, and what kind of plans do you all have for the future for using, crowdfunding?
Well, crowdfunding to me is it's a great new wave of fundraising. So I have two kind of major ideas. One thing is that for inner city arts, we often get people coming out and saying, hey, I'm having a birthday party. I don't want presents. I want people to donate, or, a bar mitzvah or an event. And so for us to have an opportunity to say, well, that's great. Let's just set up a page for you that you can go and use and distribute to your friends and post on social, I think will make that process really streamlined. It will help us track where the donations are coming from, and it will allow that person the opportunity to really showcase what they've been able to do and to tap into their network effectively. And also having our very own campaign. So we're looking at launching a campaign in the fall that we are hoping to be able to use crowdfunding for, so that we have people really engaged in reaching out to their groups. In my experience, I think sort of shorter time frames are the most effective. So we're thinking, something like a month-long campaign where people sign up and fundraise for a month towards a specific goal that we can really track and celebrate over those days.
That's terrific. And so, maybe we can dive just a little bit deeper into that. Again, I imagine that many folks on the phone have sort of a similar issues that you faced, in the sense of the perception that, your donor base, may not be as technically proficient, right? And B, the board, having some concerns about all of that. So tell us, how did you kind of, what did you find, and what recommendations do you have for those that may have a similar challenge?
For me, I think the two big things are, one, making it as simple as possible, both for people who are giving money and also for people that you're asking to set up the pages. Asking our staff and our board to take the time to fundraise for us is enough of an ask, and to ask them to set up something, on their phones or through the web that feels foreign, or that has a lot of steps, or a lot of, specific requirements, like the pixelation on a photo or something, that stops people. They get to a point where they go, okay, I'll come back to this later, and they don't. So for us, having it be as simple as possible, the text is already in there, the photos are already in there. All you need to do is put up a picture and here's the link, so that we can email out instructions or get on the phone and walk somebody through it in a matter of minutes is really important. And for our donors, having just a very simple page, figuring out, what's the minimum that we need. We need their first and last name, or they can, be listed anonymously. Do we need their address? Do we need their phone number? So that we can have some options to really streamline it, so that it's as simple as possible for somebody to make a gift. And the other thing that I think is really effective is being able to, again, honor the offline gifts, because for us, we're reaching out to younger groups, and we hope to have a nice broad base of people that are comfortable with technology. But for those people who still want to give a check, we want to make sure that donation is honored in the same way. or that if they call and give a credit card because they're not comfortable doing it online, that we can say that's fantastic, thank you so much, process it internally, but still honor that person and still give our fundraiser, the opportunity to showcase that they've received that donation and have it count towards their goal. So I think those are the two things that in this interim period, as people are starting to get more comfortable with online giving, that we can still honor people who aren't quite there yet and help it be as simple as possible for people to transition to that type of giving.
Right. Fantastic. Well, great. I'm going to move on quickly because we still have, quite a bit of good content. And I think, again, we'll get to some good questions here, as many as we can, because we are getting some. So thank you so much, Aubrey, for sharing, your experience and your insight and recommendations.
Thanks for having me.
And so again, we'll have a few minutes here to try and answer as many of these questions that have come in as possible. So now I'm going to introduce our next speaker to kind of actually show you in real time, how this works and how easily this can be set up so you can have similar experiences as both Aubrey and Justin's organization. So I'm going to introduce Jeremy Koenig, who's our Director of Marketing for MobileCause. And Jeremy's experience includes a 12-year mix of corporate agency and nonprofit organization marketing management. He's a passionate youth advocate and a father. And he's here today to share with us how everyday fundraisers can use the MobileCause platform quickly and easily. Jeremy, welcome.
Great. Thanks for having me. Doing a great job, Chris. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Excellent.
Oh. Excellent. So I'm going to walk you all through how to set up your own campaign. First, I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of an organization, and then I'm going to talk to it from the perspective of your volunteers, donors, and supporters. The thing that makes MobileCause incredibly different is how simple it is, how secure it is, and how it can be so easily promoted across mobile phones, social media, and online. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to show you is how an organization would set up their campaign. This campaign takes about 30 minutes to do. Go ahead, Chris, and switch to the next slide. As you can see, the organization sets up all of the images and the colors and the different options for what we call the seed or the parent page. They write their call to action. They set the background image. They set the featured image. They set what we call the celebrity photo, their logo. They set their overall campaign goal, and then they also include their mission statement. This page is designed to kick off the entire fundraising campaign for all of the donors. Could you click back to that last slide, Chris? The second part of the setup is really setting up the donation form. Donor information is incredibly vital to all of you, and our donation forms allow people not only to give from the convenience of any device, but you can capture any amount of information you want when somebody makes a donation. Inside the platform, two ways that we help you promote your parent fundraising page is by setting up a keyword. So, for example, the president of USC could stand up on national television and tell people to text the word USC to 71777, and then everyone would immediately receive a link back, which we'll do in a minute, to access that fundraising campaign. Additionally, MobileCause allows nonprofits to set up all their social media settings, and all these settings help individuals, once they set their pages up, effectively share their campaign, again, across mobile, social, and online. So let's go ahead and do a live example. Everybody that's on the call, please pull out your cell phone and go ahead and text the word USC, open up a new text message, and you're going to send this text message to the phone number 71777, just as you see here in the picture, and you're going to text the word USC. Once you send that text message, you will immediately get back a link that you can go ahead and click. This is an example of how an organization would promote or kick off their campaign with a text message at a live event. I'm also putting into the chat a link that you can click on, which will open up the same exact page on your desktop. So once you're seeing this campaign, go ahead and switch the slide, Chris. You'll see there's some incredible functionality that is built into MobileCause crowdfunding. Some things that really make us different is people can see who has donated and see who is fundraising by just clicking the link. You see that link there. They can make a donation on a mobile device in less than a minute. They can also share across Facebook, Twitter, email, and text, as well as share the keyword or the link to help promote the campaign. Now I'm going to walk you through how easy it is for individuals to set up their own crowdfunding pages. So let's say I have gone out there, I'm a USC alum. USC has set a goal to have 1,000 alumni set up their own pages. This is all they have to do. Once individuals have come to this page, all they have to do is click Become a Fundraiser. As you can see on the screen, they simply enter their name, their mobile number, and their email, and click the button. They immediately receive a text message that has a link, as well as an email that has a link, to confirm their participation, and then they simply upload a photo from, again, their desktop or their mobile phone, enter their fundraising goal, and put in a personal message. In less than 5 minutes, and this is the page that I've set up for myself for the demo, every single one of your volunteers, donors, and staff can have their own page. Incredibly powerful tool. Notice that I have my own keyword, which is very unique to the MobileCause system, so I can go out and tell all of my friends to text USC1 to 71777. The next volunteer would be USC2 and 3 and so on, as well as I can take my fundraising link and load it into a text message and text it to all of my personal contacts. And then, of course, I can click social media links and share across my different social media channels. We found that when volunteers send their link through email and text message, they post their campaign to social media, and they use keywords at live events and with their friends to be absolutely incredibly successful. Let's get into the back end a little bit. Some of the things that we found are most important to nonprofits is tax receipts. So one of the really cool functions of MobileCause is when somebody makes a donation, that person gets an immediate text message notification, and they also get emailed an official tax receipt. This takes a huge burden off the shoulders of nonprofits that are trying to implement crowdfunding. A second function that we found is incredibly important to forward-thinking nonprofits is the ability to be compatible with Apple and Android autofill capabilities. So all MobileCause donation forms, if you click a field in the contact section, the autofill button pops up and people can click it, and all of their information just automatically populates. And similarly, when they go to the payment section, they can click autofill credit card, and then their credit card automatically populates. They enter their CVV number and their expiration date, and they hit submit. So it literally makes it that you can make a donation with a debit or credit card in just a few minutes with just a few clicks. Very, very powerful technology. Both of our speakers referenced entering offline donations. One of the first things we found when we launched our crowdfunding product is that there will always be people that will want to write a check and give cash to individuals fundraising, and we want those people to be recognized. So we created an ability for organizations to, for example, take an envelope of checks or cash or a spreadsheet and enter those donor names and donation amounts into the individual crowdfunding pages so that it shows up on their donor walls. Very powerful and cool tool that is unique to MobileCause. One of the most unique things that MobileCause does for nonprofit organizations is every person that participates in a crowdfunding campaign, whether they text a keyword or they complete a donation, they are automatically subscribed to receive text message alerts. So as you can see in this example, in my demo campaign, the only person is me. All of you that have texted USC to 71777, if I were looking at this live, would be populated here, and I could in real time send you a text message with a follow-up video or a follow-up thank you message or whatever communication you want to ensure that your crowdfunding donors see in real time. 90% of text messages are read within 3 minutes, so it's really important that people don't treat text messaging like email. It's very personal. Just because you have the ability to send a text message doesn't mean that you should need to be yelling at people to make donations. Text messaging is about engaging in a way that people cannot ignore. The last thing in this demo that I want to bring attention to is the way that donor information is collected. So all fields that are in the donation forms essentially in real time appear inside of the MobileCause account, and they can be downloaded in a CSV format to be organized, to be imported into your CRM. We work with thousands of customers, and there are hundreds of different CRMs that we work with. This is the most universal way of sharing information between systems. Just to summarize the MobileCause difference, MobileCause has been at the forefront of mobile fundraising since 2008. Your volunteers, donors, and staff can set up pages in minutes from any device. Collected donations are remitted directly to organizations by check or direct deposit. MobileCause offers a flat 2.5% transaction fee, which is an industry low. This includes Amex. We take away all the complexity of transaction fees. Organizations have total control over campaign branding and can send automatic tax receipts. Organizations receive full donor data and they can see who is fundraising in real time. Campaigns are 100% secure, PCI and TCPA compliant, and all of our donation pages are compatible with Apple and Android devices. Our goal at MobileCause for all of you on the webinar and every nonprofit in America is to empower volunteers, donors, and staff to conveniently set up fundraising pages and raise donations on behalf of organizations over social media, text, email in a way that is branded and secure. Thanks for listening. Chris, let's go ahead and start taking some questions.
Terrific, Jeremy. Great stuff, everyone. So again, if you all have questions, we've got a few minutes left here. We're going to answer as many as we can, so go ahead and type them into the chat. Again, as a reminder, we will be sending out a link to the recorded version so you can review anything you might have missed. But here's a couple of questions. Here's a question for you, Lindsey. What would you say is your top recommendation for engaging people, and attracting new people to your crowdfunding campaign?
Top thing that you could do to engage people to your crowdfunding campaign. Okay, let me think about this just for a second. We talked a little bit about how important your promotional and your big marketing plan is, definitely. To be honest, I actually think the most important thing when it comes to engagement with your crowdfunding campaign is that it's not conflicting or interfering with other things that could be happening at the same time. So this means two different things. One is that you should proactively consider what else you have going on at the same time frame. So whether it's your marketing calendar, communications, etc., you sort of want this to have the spotlight. You don't want it to be on the periphery for any of your current donors. And then the second thing is how can you make your campaign extremely relevant so that response is right there. So as an example, an excellent way to be using crowdfunding is for an emergency response situation. So this is anything from being, say, a huge nonprofit like the Red Cross, and you're responding to a natural disaster, to cold weather on the East Coast, to tornadoes in another portion of the U.S., etc. Any sort of emergency response situation can heighten that sort of sense of urgency and relevancy for your campaigns. All of that, and also, like I was saying, not conflicting or interfering with other things that are happening at the same time, can contribute to that engagement. Awesome. And now that's a great segue to Justin, because you had that similar experience. That was, Justin, your sort of call to action for everyone, correct? And so related to that, what about that resonated the most, with the alumni? What excited them the most, would you say?
I think what excited them most is the fact that their gift wasn't going to be going to any sort of black hole. A lot of times when you're fundraising for an annual fund or for general operations, people don't believe that the money's actually going to go to something productive, that it might just be going to, fixing something on campus, or it might be going to something other than the students. Having a very targeted cause for us in the Emergency Scholarship Fund made everything very real. And it made them understand just how much their gifts can make a difference.
Got it. And I'm going to try and get through because we have just a few minutes left. We got a lot of great questions. And so this one's for Aubrey. This question is about, member pledge drives. Is this something that could replace drives, those typical drives to make it easier? Or is this crowdfunding something that, you could use sort of all year long? What's your recommendation or thought on that?
Well, we don't do pledge drives on our end, but, unlike Justin and what Lindsey's saying, we are actually using crowdfunding not for a targeted sort of emergency situation, but we are actually trying to use it towards our annual fund. So definitely, while we can have the capabilities all year long, I like the idea of sort of there being a cause or a smaller goal, because I think if you don't have a targeted thing like a capital campaign or like an emergency situation, having, one person with their smaller goal, like a member having, a goal to raise $5,000, even if it is over several months, I think it's just a simpler interface for that to happen. So I almost don't think that you need to change around, the way that you do it. It's almost exchanging it out for a different user interface that helps bring in more people and really makes the process easy for everybody who's gonna do that for you. Right.
Got it. And just as a note to everyone, it's about 11:59 Pacific time. We'll stay on an extra, 5 to 10 minutes here because we do have some great questions, and I want to get to as many of them as possible. So if everyone has a few more minutes, please feel free to stay tuned with us. And for those of you that are running out of time, again, we'll be sending out a link to the recorded version, so you won't miss anything that we're going to talk about here at the end. I think just some quick questions to Jeremy, just for everyone that may be wondering about just some specific costs and some of those types of things. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Just so everybody has an idea of cost and some basic sort of how long does it take to set up and what happens.
Yeah, so MobileCause offers a full product suite of tools for fundraising across mobile, social, and online. These include not only crowdfunding, but event fundraising solutions, text-to-donate solutions, mobile marketing, online giving, and smart data records. MobileCause customers pay an annual subscription fee that can be paid annually at a discount or monthly, and we charge a flat 2.5% transaction fee, including Amex for all of our tools. We have donations are remitted either every 2 weeks or next day if the customer has set up merchant services. We provide full merchant services at no additional cost with all subscribers. Once a customer is set up, they literally could have a crowdfunding event online, whichever campaign set up in 30 minutes to an hour, and can be fundraising next day.
Got it. And so is there sort of a range that we might be able to give to people so they have an idea, of where it might fit or what it might start at, that type of thing?
Yeah, so our Plus plan, it starts off at $250 per month, and then those plans range all the way up into the thousands of dollars per month, and it's based on how many campaigns you're planning on running, how many messages you're planning on sending, how many fundraising pages you need, so on and so forth.
And how many we're getting a lot of different questions, and so we have, how many campaigns can you do? I mean, it's limitless. Is that right?
That is correct. On the next slide, we'll put up the way in which you can request, there we go, the way that you can request a demo of our product suite. And we have a team of representatives, fundraising experts standing by to follow up with you, and they would love to show you a complete demo of our platform for your organization specifically, and then talk about which plan really makes the most sense for you. At the end of the day, MobileCause wants to raise as much money as we can for all of you, help you gain new donors, and help you gain more recurring donors.